Welcome back to Studio One, where my next let me introduce my next guest and see if you can guess who it is. He was a member of the Legislative Assembly of Ontario, representing the riding of Mississauga East Cooksville for the Ontario Liberal Party. He raised in Toronto, attended the University of Oregon on an athletic scholarship. He also has a Bachelor of Education degree from the University of Windsor. He represented Canada in the 1996 Olympics in Atlanta, Georgia as a marathon runner, and he finished one of the top 20s. Elected to the Ontario legislature in the provincial elections of 2003, he was named Minister of Tourism in 2007 and appointed as Minister of Labour in 2008. And the giveaway, here goes the giveaway. His wife was elected to the Mississauga City Council in the 2010 municipal election with over 70% votes. My guest today is no other than Mr. Peterfonseca, Liberal candidate for the federal parliament from the Mississauga East Cooksville riding. Welcome to Studio One, Peter.
Hi, Arshad. Thank you so much. It's really a pleasure and delight to be here at TV1 Canada. And it's my first time on the show, so I understand it's a terrific show that really helps the community understand what's going on. So I'm going to have a great chat here with you about what's happening in this election and how important it is to your viewers.
Of course, and we promise you that we're going to ask you every single thing that you're going to talk to our audience about. So let's start with your career. You were a very successful minister on a provincial level. You were a very successful legislator on the provincial level. But suddenly, on the December 16, you say, "Okay, I'm no more provincial. I'm going to go federal." So what made you change your mind? What made you go federal?
You know, Arshad, most of the issues that come to MPPs, members of provincial parliament, are issues that stem, and I'm talking about things that are broken, from a federal level. Mm-hmm. So there are immigration problems that are broken, that people come to Canada to fulfill their dreams and aspirations, and they're not able to because of all the impediments that are in front of them. So I saw this as an opportunity. As you know, our incumbent MP took ill, so she was not going to be running in the election for the Liberals. I've been a Liberal all my life. And I was asked to take up this role for our community. And I thought, you know what, I have to do this. I have to do this because I see how much is broken in Ottawa and how I can help in terms of fixing that immigration system. I know so well because I came over here as an immigrant. I came with my parents as a young boy. I saw what they went through. And the Canada of then is not the Canada today. And we have to help people succeed. So I decided to jump into this race, and that's my vision for our community.
And you are representing, and you intend to represent in the federal legislature a riding which is quite unique, actually. This is a riding which is a very challenging riding as well. It is not. It has been a traditional Liberal riding with the Honourable Albina Guarnieri since the 2003, and even before that, the Mississauga East and all that. But it's a very challenging riding. It's a mix of diverse ethnicities, cultural backgrounds. The per capita income in this riding is lower than the national and provincial average. 61% people are first-generation immigrant, just like yourself and myself here.
Yes.
So how do you see the challenges of this riding? The vote casting has reduced on a federal level in the past. There were 5,000 less vote cast. How are you going to make these people come out and approach them and make them vote for the right people?
Well, first, just let me say, this is, you're quite right. It is a very unique riding. I think it's a wonderful riding. It is a microcosm of what Canada is. So in my neighborhood, within the riding, I have on my street, in 50 different homes, I will have 50 different cultures. People that maybe came here many generations ago, their parents, to some that just arrived last week. Mm-hmm. And that's what makes us great. Now, and you're right that we have to get people engaged in how important our political structure is, our democracy. And to do that, actually, the riding has looked at what barriers do we have to take away. 50% of this riding lives in multi-unit buildings, so high-rise buildings. And one of the things that I've been pushing for is to have more polling stations right in the building. Make it easy for people to be able to come down the elevator, vote right in their building. I believe this will bring up the voter turnout. But one is to engage people and to get them out. I've knocked on thousands of doors. And especially when I talk to our young people, because that's kind of those that vote less, and telling them how important it is to their future, their education, their retirement, etc. It's hard to think about that when you're 18 or 19 years old, but if I think we have more informed discussions like the ones you have here on your show, we'll be able to do that. People just have to understand how important that vote is and how precious it is. I always think, we have so many resources in this country. We have a lot of oil, right? We have a lot of oil in this country. But the greatest resource we have is our democracy. And especially when you look around the world today, the turmoil that we see in so many nations, people should be saying, we live in a blessed land. Let's get out and vote.
Right. We have to start those community outreach programs. And your suggestion is brilliant, actually, taking the polling stations to the people instead of bringing them here, because you're right in saying that more than 50% of people live there in the multi-condo complexes and high-rise apartments there. Now, coming from the diversity, ethnic and diversity in cultural diversity of your writing, it is a blessing, but as well it brings certain issues also. In itself. For example, the issues of immigration. People are worried about immigration because they are talking about their parents who are back home, who probably under the current policy is going to be another 20 years before they can get to see their parents and bring them into Canada. Well, what are your plans? How are you going to improve the status and the situation the immigration department is facing today?
Yeah, Arshad, you're quite right, and I've heard some very, very sad stories where family members have been on the waiting list and they've passed away before they can even get here to see their family. Wow. That's terrible. People waiting 5, 6, 7, 8 years to wait for their loved one to arrive, or someone that's gotten newly married is not able to bring over their husband or wife for well over a year or two. This is unheard of. What we need is more resources actually to be invested in our immigration system abroad, in our embassies, in our consulates, through our NGOs, to be able to help with, even before someone arrives, with settlement services, etc., or repatriation. Much of that work could be done offshore. And I think what that will do is assist all those newcomers that are coming, or coming as through a sponsorship program or a work program, that when they arrive here, the chances of them being successful will be that much greater, and we could bring down the wait times that we have had. And I just want to, on top of that, is about working in partnership. Having worked at the provincial level, it's about a federal government working in partnership with the provinces, with the municipalities, and with all those like your telecommunications here company, TV1 Canada, so that we can achieve success for our newcomers. And that is good for everybody. And, it's really good, I'll tell you, for our economy. We're always talking about jobs in our economy. Yep. This would be a great economic driver. 250,000 people coming in every year, helping them be successful earlier than what it's taking. This would be huge.
Two things that I want to go back to in your latest statement, and you said that we will increase our strategy and our presence in the countries abroad, so we can go out and help reduce that backlog. Coming from that stems another question, and that is, we have closed certain operations, for example, in countries like Pakistan. We are not doing any more immigration application processing within Pakistan. They all have to go to a different country. Is this also on the agenda? Are you also thinking that they would be reinstated, so that I can assure you that a very, very huge portion of the backlog comes from Pakistan and India as well? So what are your plans about that?
Yeah, I can't speak to those details specifically, but what I can say is that it would be better to have our resources, much that we invest here within the country, brought offshore and invested to help people really where the bottleneck is happening. The bottleneck is happening offshore. It's not actually happening once somebody arrives here. But we've had a conservative government that has come in and actually cut settlement services. I know here for sure in Ontario, $60 million being cut to settlement services. So we're not helping them offshore. We're not helping them when they arrive. How do we expect newcomers to succeed? So we have to really change our approach, how we're doing this.
That was actually, Peter, my second question. I wanted to talk to you about the Immigration Settlement Services Program and the cutting in funding in the ISAP program. And are you talking about that people can expect that you will come back when you come in, and if and when a federal government is formed by the Liberals, you are going to reinstate that funding?
Yeah, I think what has to be looked at is the organizations that have been funded. If there's going to be an increase or a reduction in funding, there should be evidence of why that's happening. And what we've received from the Conservative government is no evidence in any such way. They just send a letter to an organization, either they're getting more money or they're being cut. And this is not the way that you run a government. This is not the way that you run a democracy.
Especially when the picture op is over and it's done, and now you want to,
I stick to facts. Let's look at facts. Yeah. If a settlement services organization is being successful, is helping people learn the language, get into a home, get their kids adjusted to school, help newcomers find a job, then you know what? Yes, they deserve more investment. But to just arbitrarily, with the sending of a letter, cut them off, this is completely wrong, and this is what we've gotten from a Conservative government.
You're watching Studio One with Arshad Mahmood, and my guest today is Mr. Peterfonseca that we are talking to. He is the federal Liberal candidate for the riding of Mississauga East Cooksville. Do not go anywhere. Continue watching Studio One. We'll be right back after the short break.